The steady ascent. The sun rose gently over the lush hills of Mullumbimby, casting long shadows across the small town where Scott's life had always been rooted. He had built a career that many would admire, a devoted teacher shaping young minds, a principal steering an entire school, and later, a state manager at an training company, helping others adapt to the ever-changing demands of the digital world. He wore many hats, each symbolizing his dedication to growth, both for himself and the people he served. His work ethic was unwavering, his days full of purpose and drive. Scott earned a respectable income, $50 an hour, working a solid 40-hour week. On paper, he was the embodiment of success. Scott wasn't just a man with a good job. He was someone who poured his heart into everything he did. As a teacher, he found joy in those light bulb moments when a struggling student finally understood a complex concept. As a principal, he championed innovation, pushing for better resources and opportunities for his students and staff. When he transitioned into it, he thrived, mentoring others and making a tangible difference in workplaces across the region. His life was a testament to hard work, resilience, and the belief that education could empower anyone to rise above challenges. But even as Scott excelled, life had a way of revealing its cracks. Success, he learned, could mask vulnerabilities. For years, his busy schedule left little time to notice the quiet erosion of personal connections and emotional reserves. His career, though fulfilling, came with immense pressure. Yet he pressed on, trusting in the foundation he had built: strong friendships, steady work, and a sense of purpose. What Scott didn't realize was that life doesn't always unravel with dramatic, sudden blows. Sometimes it's a slow, steady erosion, like the way water smooths out a stone. And sometimes it's an unexpected storm that takes everything away in an instant. The diagnosis. In May 2013, that storm arrived. Scott was diagnosed with Burkitt lymphoma, an aggressive form of cancer that demanded immediate and intensive treatment. The news was like a jolt from a deep sleep, shaking the foundation of his carefully built life. Suddenly, the man who had spent decades helping others achieve stability found himself on the edge of uncertainty. 6 months in St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney became his new reality. The once structured days of teaching and managing teams gave way to endless cycles of chemotherapy, the hum of medical machines, and the sterile smell of hospital corridors. The battle against cancer was grueling, but Scott faced it with the same determination that had driven his career. "I fought it," he says simply, "and I fought it successfully." But survival came at a cost. By the time Scott emerged from the hospital, cancer-free, but physically and emotionally drained, the world he had left behind had shifted. His career was on hold. His finances, once steady, had been drained by medical expenses and the absence of income during his treatment. And perhaps most devastatingly, he returned to an empty house and a quiet life. The independence he had always cherished now felt like isolation. A fragile recovery. In 2015, after nearly 2 years of recovery, Scott began to re-enter the world. He was still finding his footing, but his determination to rebuild his life was unwavering. He moved in with a friend in Brunswick Heads, hoping for a sense of community and stability. For a while, things seemed to settle. He was no longer battling for his life and the small comforts of normalcy. A roof over his head, companionship, and the prospect of returning to work brought a flicker of hope. But life, as Scott learned, rarely follows a linear path. The living arrangement with his friend became strained, the relationship fraying under the weight of unspoken tensions. One night, after an argument that boiled over into something irreparable, Scott found himself faced with a reality he had never imagined. He had nowhere to go. It was late, and the world outside felt hostile and unfamiliar. Scott packed what belongings he could into his car, his loyal dog by his side, and drove aimlessly through the quiet streets. He parked in an empty lot, his mind racing as he tried to comprehend what had just happened. Homelessness. The word felt foreign and surreal. This wasn't supposed to happen to someone like him. a man who had built a life on hard work and responsibility. That night, as he sat in the driver's seat, his dog curled up on the back seat, Scott experienced a fear unlike anything he had faced before. Cancer had been a battle of the body, but this was a battle of the spirit. It's very scary, he recalls. You're constantly on the lookout for someone coming along to tell you to move on or something worse. Sleep was impossible. Thoughts raced through his mind like a runaway train. Where would he go tomorrow? How would he feed himself and his dog? How had his life unraveled so quickly? For the first time, Scott understood the crushing weight of uncertainty, the way it could hollow out a person's sense of identity and hope, the shattering of pride. In the days that followed, Scott tried to piece together a plan. His car became his home, a place of both refuge and confinement. He learned to navigate the unspoken rules of homelessness, where to park without drawing attention, which public restrooms were safe to use, and where to find a hot meal. But every day was a struggle, a series of small, exhausting decisions that left little room for anything else. For someone who had spent decades helping others, asking for help was the hardest part. Your mind can't focus on anything, Scott explains. You're overwhelmed by the basics: how to care for yourself, how to care for your dog, where to get food, where to sleep. But even in his darkest moments, Scott refused to give up. He began to seek out resources for the homeless, reaching out to organizations that could offer support. It was a humbling experience, but also a reminder that even in the most challenging circumstances, there are people willing to help. Slowly, with their guidance, Scott began to take steps toward stability. A new foundation. After weeks of living in his car, Scott finally found a pathway out of homelessness. Through the help of local charities and housing programs, he secured a small but safe place to live. It wasn't grand, but it was a start, a foundation on which he could rebuild his life. The transition back to stability wasn't easy. Scott had to confront the emotional scars left by his experience, the way homelessness had stripped him of his sense of security and self-worth. But he also discovered a new perspective. The one thing I've learned, he says, is to never give up. People are there to help, even when it feels like no one cares. The lessons learned. Today, Scott's life is a testament to resilience. He has rebuilt his sense of purpose, using his experience to advocate for others who find themselves in similar situations. His journey has taught him that homelessness doesn't discriminate. It can happen to anyone, regardless of their achievements or background. Scott's story is a reminder that life's challenges, no matter how overwhelming, can be overcome with determination and support. It's also a call to action, urging society to look beyond stereotypes and recognize the humanity of those who face homelessness. As Scott puts it, your world can collapse in an instant, but once you get help, once you find safe and secure accommodation, everything changes. Never give up. His words resonate not just as advice, but as a beacon of hope for anyone standing on the edge of despair. A new dawn. As Scott sits in the modest home he now calls his own, his loyal dog curled up by his side, he reflects on the path that brought him here. The road was far from easy, filled with moments of despair and fear that threatened to break him. Yet through it all, Scott held on to one unshakable belief: things could get better if he didn't give up. He has rebuilt his life with a deeper sense of purpose. The lessons learned during his time of struggle have shaped him into a man with more empathy and resilience than ever before. Scott now volunteers with organizations that provide housing and support for the homeless. His own experience has given him a unique perspective, and his voice carries weight when he says, "I know what you're going through, and I know you can make it out." He often speaks to groups, sharing his story not to gain sympathy, but to raise awareness about the fragility of stability. Homelessness doesn't have a face, he tells them. It could be your teacher, your neighbor, your friend. It could be you. His message is clear. No one is immune, and everyone deserves compassion. The power of perseverance. Scott's journey is a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. His story teaches us that life's greatest challenges, whether they come in the form of illness, financial hardship, or personal loss, can be overcome with determination, support, and the willingness to ask for help. It also underscores the importance of community, the power of small acts of kindness, and the need for a safety net that ensures no one falls through the cracks. For Scott, the experience of homelessness taught him not only about his own strength, but also about the importance of humility. "I had to let go of my pride," he says. "I had to accept help, even when it was hard to ask for it. And that's what saved me." A call to action. Scott's story is not just a testament to survival. It's a call to action for all of us. It challenges us to look at homelessness not as a problem for someone else, but as a societal issue that demands our attention and compassion. It reminds us to support organizations that provide housing and resources, to advocate for policies that address the root causes of homelessness, and most importantly, to treat those experiencing it with dignity and respect. The lesson we can all learn. Life is unpredictable. It can change in an instant, and no one is guaranteed immunity from hardship. But Scott's story shows us that even in the darkest times, there is always a glimmer of hope. It teaches us to persevere, to seek help when we need it, and to never give up on the possibility of a better tomorrow. As Scott likes to say, your world may collapse, but it doesn't have to stay that way. There's always a way forward, even if it's one small step at a time. His journey from a successful career to homelessness and back again is a reminder that our worth is not defined by our circumstances, but by how we rise from them. Scott's story leaves us with a powerful question. How can we, as individuals and as a society, create a world where no one has to experience what he went through? And how can we ensure that everyone, no matter their situation, has the chance to find their way back to stability and hope? The answers may not be simple, but they start with empathy, action, and the belief that no one is ever truly alone. This concludes the story. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, please consider liking the video and sharing it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories. Have a great day.